Hi guys, good evening, hello, welcome along to Jazz Across the Pond. Jazz Interviews Reimagined, a brand new and a very exciting bringing together of two great nations. It's jazz talking like you've never seen or heard it before. I think it's about time we nip over to the other side of the pond and invite my very dear friend to come and join us. So there he is. Good hello, sir. How are we?
Good, Roger. How are you?
Oh, fabulous. Absolutely fabulous. So much better for seeing you.
Oh, aren't you kind?
You having a good day?
Not truthful, but kind. Yeah, pretty much. It's we had a lot of rain last night, and it's kind of cloudy, a little sunny today. It's gonna be a little bit of sun, but yeah, doing pretty good.
Well, here in the UK, the sun's been trying to come out, but no such sign of it yet. It's still hiding behind the clouds.
Well, I'm telling you, when my people left England, they said goodbye to that lousy weather.
All right.
No, it's made the British who they are. Come on.
Absolutely. What else would we have to talk about?
That's right.
So it's a very warm welcome to Jazz Across the Pond, Jazz Interviews Reimagined, with me all the way from the UK, from the United Kingdom, from good old Blighty. It's me, Roger Lee, aka the Jazz Cat.
I mean, can you work it any more than that? And I'm Kevin Goldsby from the United States, and they call me Mr. G.
Mr. G, Mr. G, Mr. G. The Charlie to the Angels.
Oh, wow. Charlie to the Angels. Okay, so you're referencing the TV show, obviously, Charlie's Angels. It's like 50 years ago now or something crazy. But I see where you're going with this, Jazz Cat. I mean, today's guest is Rebecca Angel.
Yeah.
Her father is Dennis Angel. He's a distinguished trumpet and flugelhorn player in his own right. Actually, he appears on 3 tracks with Rebecca. But a friend of ours and a previous guest on Jazz Across the Pond, Jazz Interviews Reimagined, Mr. Jason Miles, the composer, arranger, keyboard wizard, producer, and mentor for Rebecca Angel, might be the real Charlie to the Angels.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, I turned that around on you, didn't I?
Yeah, that's a good one. Now, I used to love it when Kate Jackson, Ferrara Fawcett Major, as she was billed, and Jacqueline Smith, and they used to sit around. There was this little speakerphone. Hi, girls, how we doing there? It's Charlie here. Hiya, Charlie.
Well, like yourself and me, I guess he just didn't have a face for television. He had a face for radio. Right? So was he paid by the word, do you think? Or
I have no idea. But yes, you used to have this vision of what he actually looked like, because it was his voice on a speakerphone.
I didn't watch it all that much, although I loved the cast was very appealing.
Very appealing.
I didn't watch it that much, but did Charlie ever reveal himself?
No, he never revealed himself.
Did they ever see him? I mean, did we ever see him on air? Okay.
Nope. Anyway. No. So we haven't got a clue.
But we digress. Because
of course, then Cheryl Ladd took over, and then of course they made it into 2 blockbuster films. Anyway, we're digressing. This is not a reminiscing program to look back at the wonderful days of the 70s TV programs and with the $6 Million Man and all the rest of it. And we're talking jazz.
Good. So who did we have on last week?
Well, last week, the lovely Paula Atherton from New York City. What a great interview. You enjoyed, I know I did, but you thoroughly enjoyed last week's interview.
I did. She's an outstanding multi-instrumentalist. She's a vocalist, which we don't get to hear enough, who switched to saxophone as a teenager, and she's been crushing the charts for years. Interestingly, and I didn't know this, she was the former band leader for the Lifetime cable comedy show Girls Night Out. What we did know was that Paul has worked with incredible artists, including Cindy Bradley, Nick Coleone, Chuck Loeb, the late Chuck Loeb, Brian Simpson, Bob James, David Sanborn, and Chieli Minucci.
That's right, yeah.
Along with Ollie Silk that we had on the show. And that's just to mention a few. She's played with a ton of people.
Yeah, I mean, even to think that her groundwork was with Bob Minzer. We were both sitting there going, "Whoa, that's incredible!" To have that as that she learned to play with that man. I mean, we both love that man. We both feature him quite frequently on our individual radio shows.
We do. And by the way, just so that our viewers are aware of it, Paula just snagged the number 2 spot, which is a change since last week, but she's up to the number 2 spot on Billboard's Top 30 on their Smooth Jazz National Airplay chart. She's got the number 4 spot on Groove Jazz Music's Top 30 and the number 10 spot this week on last week on Radio Wave's Smooth Jazz Top 100. So Paula was a great interview, and you got to check it out, people. You can find all of our interviews on YouTube.
Do you think we could take any credit for that? The fact that she was at number 5 in the charts last week, we did the interview and suddenly she's up to 2. Maybe we should take some credit for that.
Well, I don't want to say anything, but it's a good possibility.
Yeah, okay. Well, we'll just with the silent people, we'll just go along and just help promote and push. But there have been some amazing interviews, and they're all available, all the back catalogue and that. And I've had a couple of messages coming in today from the likes of Brian Bromberg, and thank you guys, thank you so much. His new album is doing wonderful, a little driving music, and there's some great interviews. Philip Sace has contacted me the last couple of days to say, hey, this is really good. And so, and we've got some great artists coming up. I think we're right up to now. We're knocking on the door of November now.
Oh, we definitely are. We just booked November the 1st.
Yep. Do you want to tell everybody who it is?
It's well, no, because I said somebody earlier and we haven't nailed him down. So
okay, let's get back to tonight. Charlie. Okay, let's find out which angel we got coming up to join us tonight.
Very good.
So it's a debut album. She had an EP out back in 2018, but tonight we're going to be featuring, it's her debut album, and we're thrilled to bits to be featuring her and getting it. And look, there's our copies. There they are there. They're both there. So, ladies and gentlemen.
How did you get a hard case and I got a soft one? You must rank a little higher than I do or something. I guess. I don't know. You guys waste plastic, I guess. Go ahead.
So it's Jazz Across the Pond, Jazz Interviews Reimagined with Mr. G and with myself, the Jazz Cat. Ladies and gentlemen, sit back and we're going to have a little listen to this lovely lady singing a track from her new album. And then we're going to be having it. I'm just looking at the screen now, and her face is just literally just popped up on the green. She's in the green room, and she's sitting there in New York City and eagerly awaiting to come in and join us and to have a chat with the two of us. So have a listen to this. The album is called Love Life Choices. This particular track we're going to play is Side by Side. Kevin, do you want to explain why we picked this track?
Side by Side?
Yeah.
Well, Side by Side is actually a song that is co-written by Jason and Rebecca, and we'll talk more about that later. Yeah, great. It's an amazing song. Gives you a good feel for Jason's influence blended in with Rebecca, and I think it's a great song to start the show off. So I'm ready to hear it.
Good. Well, without further ado, let's play the track.
Hi, this is contemporary jazz singer Rebecca Angel from New York, and you are watching me on Jazz Across the Pond with the Jazz Cat and Mr. G. I hope you enjoy.
Well, we've just been listening to an incredible track from this lovely lady's brand new debut album, Love Life Choices. And it's a bit of side by side. And as Mr. G alluded to, the track was written by our lovely featured guest tonight, along with the wonderful Jason Miles. Ladies and gentlemen, what can we say about this week's very special guest? A beautiful American jazz singer. Ladies and gentlemen, please join us as we welcome Jazz Across the Pond, all the way from New York City. It's the wonderful Rebecca Angel. Hi there.
Thank you. Hi, how are you?
Well, absolutely fabulous. So what's the weather doing in New York today then?
It was raining earlier, but it cleared now, so it's not too bad. The weather's just been unpredictable.
Well, if it's any consolation, it's the same in the UK.
It's been insane. Yes, definitely.
Now,
So,
Roger,
hanging in there though.
Roger, we've always talked about the distances in the United States and how in the UK, you guys aren't accustomed to doing long drives. So from Richmond to get up to see Rebecca up in New York City would take me about 6 hours without traffic. Takes me about 6 hours to get up there, just to give you an idea. So we could have totally different weather.
Quite a trek.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I get that. Anyway, so here we are then with the lovely Rebecca Angel talking about her brand new debut album. We've got a lot of things to discuss on that. May I just say, first of all, I think it's a fabulous album. I love it. A copy was sent to myself on that. And I know Kevin and myself love it. And we're going to be featuring it on our respective shows. See, that's just the proof there. It is.
Oh, I got it.
Look at that.
Great.
So, Rebecca, please tell our followers more about your childhood and your early days singing, your introductory into singing. And did you come from a musical family background? And where did the love of jazz come from? Over to you.
Yeah, great. So I really was interested in music as long as actually my parents can remember before I can remember, because they said I was singing as a toddler. And I'd wake up in the crib just kind of humming melodies. So before I can even remember, my parents say that. But early on, my dad's a trumpet player, also a copyright lawyer. So he's very well equipped to the entertainment industry and music. And he introduced me to so many jazz greats at a very young age. So maybe even 4 or 5 years old, I started listening to Ella Fitzgerald, Louis Armstrong, and the Beatles. I had a wide range of music, loved Elvis, Peggy Lee. So from a very young age, he would play that sort of music in the morning, going to school, just driving in the car. So I was always listening to this sort of the oldies for me. And I really fell in love with the music that he kind of grew up with a little bit. So I always had that taste from that era. And my mom's also very creative. She's a jewelry artist. She makes jewelry. And so I come from a very creative family, and my uncle is a drummer, and one of my uncles is a drummer. He actually played with Jimi Hendrix as a kid. So I come from a very musical background in my family. And starting at a young age, I always loved music, and it was always part of my life in some way or another. I did not Broadway. I went to Broadway shows growing up. I wasn't in them. But when I saw them, I just knew that, performing was definitely something I was interested in. So my parents signed me up for this place called Broadway Training Center. It was like for kids. I was 7 years old, and I started doing shows with that group and started taking voice lessons in high school. And so I was just very involved at a young age. And then I went to Ithaca College for vocal jazz studies. Mm-hmm. And that's when I dove in even deeper into the jazz realm, performing.
Well, wow, Rebecca, we do know that you grew up in a household listening to the Beatles, the Beach Boys, Elvis Presley, Ella Fitzgerald, and Billie Holiday, just to mention a few. So I know that these were some of the earliest people that you heard as a child. But who would you say were your earliest idols, and who currently inspires you?
Early on, I definitely think the Beatles, even though they weren't from my era, they were so influential. I just remember my dad playing, which now as an adult, I'm like a little questionable, but the Yellow Submarine video, and it's very trippy. But as a kid, kind of a lot of that stuff you don't pick up on. I was just mesmerized with the music and the visuals. That was definitely an early influence of mine. And then Bob Marley, I actually got very into the reggae. And one of the Waiting in Vain, I recorded that song on my album. I
Right,
got
right.
into that more in college. But some modern idols, I really love John Mayer
Hmm.
and Nora Jones. She definitely was a huge influence, and Sade. So Jason Miles actually turned me on to Sade's music. I
Oh,
recorded
wow.
one of her songs as well
Yep,
on
yep.
the album. So
Hmm.
it's kind of changed throughout the years, but I'm always checking out new music and seeing what's happening, not just in the jazz world, but pop and all different genres. So
Absolutely. Well, it's funny to say Sade because I'm showing my age now. When Diamond Live came out, it was something like it had to be on the coffee table of every single house. Everyone had to have a copy of Sade. I saw
yeah.
her live in concert once in that when here in England.
Oh, that's
And yeah,
awesome.
I think you did a fabulous cover of Maureen, one of her tracks and that. And I think you've
Thank
done a
you.
fabulous cover version of it. It really is. It's wonderful to take on someone like Sade with such
Thank
an
you.
unusual voice and that, a distinctive voice. Anyway, Rebecca, New York-based
Yeah.
jazz vocalist debut EP was Whatever We Had. We've got a copy here. All right, then.
Yes.
Again, fabulous. Great one on there. And it's a smooth, soulful, sensual, sultry innovation to dream, love, and reminisce. Produced by the renowned, we've mentioned his name already, the wonderful Jason Miles, a former guest here on the show. That was a
Hmm.
mind-blowing interview. I know Kevin and Mo both sat there going,
Yeah.
Miles Davis, this person, that person, this person. I thought his
Yeah.
autobiography, he'd have to start writing it now because it'd be an
Yeah.
incredible who's who. I mean, the man's an amazing man. Cool and
Absolutely.
edgy contemporary, the disc. So uh, they've managed to pick some of the greatest musicians of New York to go into this album. So the vibe evokes through the classic vocalists such as Sade, as we've just mentioned, and the Brazilian Astrud Gilberto. And there's definitely flavors of that. When you listen to it, there's a little bit, and we're going to be playing a piece
Mm.
later on. There's a lovely Brazilian flavor to that. Now, that Brazilian style, because you haven't actually
Mm.
alluded to it, but did Jason
Mm.
get you onto that music, or was that again your parents would listen to this Brazilian music? Who introduced you to Brazilian style of music?
It's funny. Jason definitely introduced me to a lot of Brazilian music, and on my EP, I had one song by Marcos Valle, and
Mhm.
he wrote Jet Samba, and so that was definitely a big introduction into that world. But I also loved listening to like the Guest Gilberto album in college, and just the smooth soulful kind of laid back feeling of the Brazilian and bossa nova.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I definitely had a taste of that earlier on too, but it wasn't quite as prominent until I'd say, yeah, when I was working with Jason and doing the EP, I definitely delved into that more. So I
Now,
think it's a culmination of, yeah, before, growing up a little bit, and then definitely in college and working with Jason that I got
Hmm.
into that
okay.
music.
I mean, we've interviewed so many people, and inevitably, yeah, the Beatles gets mentioned, but quite frequently, there's so many artists, and you're going to have to go back through our interviews, our archive, to
Mm,
find there's so many. They've done an album of tribute to Jobim.
mm,
It, you know,
mhm.
one of them, it blew me away. And he fell off my chair, and they were big fans of a Brazilian band called Azimuth, and I've got a big section of Azimuth here. And I went, "For someone
Wow.
heard of Azimuth." So
Mm.
there's a lot of Brazilian. But let's go back a little bit. How did you and when did you first meet the wonderful Jason?
So I met Jason about 10 years ago now when I was 15. So I was pretty young. My dad's, I mentioned before that he's a trumpet player as well. And he worked with Jason first. So that's how I got the introduction. So I was still in high school when I first met Jason. And then I was featured on some of my dad's songs on his album that he worked with Jason. And then eventually, I recorded a couple singles, like Jet Samba being one of them. And throughout college, I worked with Jason. And then right after I finished undergrad at Ithaca, we recorded the EP, and that was very soon after. And then we came out with this album. We recorded it pretty much exclusively through the pandemic, which was quite an experience. But yeah, so I really started though 10 years ago. And so he's helped kind of, help me develop my own voice, my own style. And he's always very open to hearing all of my ideas and direction. And his big emphasis is finding my own unique path and not trying to just copy someone else, because he thinks there's a lot of that going on always, but just to really focus on my own voice, my own story, and see what happens with that. But we've put a lot of work and energy into this project, and it's been really cool, like actually doing a debut album with him, besides just the singles and EP leading up to it.
Well, that brings me to my question, because we talk about singles and EPs and CDs or albums. They're CDs now, but we've mentioned that Love Life's Choices is obviously your debut full-length project, and it followed your widely acclaimed EP, What We Had, as well as you had several well-received singles. But my question is, if you would share with our viewers what was gleaned from the experience and the release of your EP, and how did it position you as you approached your debut project, Love Life Choices? Now, you did both with Jason. So
Correct,
what did the two of you collectively glean from the EP that you then took it and applied it towards your album?
Yeah, well, I think something that's a common theme between the EP and the album is I do have a lot of different genres, but it has a connected feel. I don't think it feels disjointed, even though it's one genre on one song and different on another. Also a mix of originals. So we kind of did a similar approach in picking songs that were originals and also covers and bringing a new life to them. Some of them I had been singing for years now with the EP and the album, but for the album we really wanted to take it up to the next step with musicianship and just the arrangements, the sounds, to really bring forward my voice and maturity with this album, which I think it does, and just show everyone I'm ready for this next step in the full project.
What we're going to do now, we're going to take a very, very quick break from the interview now, because there must be lots of our followers now going, listen, it's almost like being in a restaurant with a waiter and they've given you a little touch of wine, you've drunk it, and the waiter's gone. You're going, no, can you top the rest of the glass up? Because I really enjoyed that. So what we're going to do, we're give you a taster of the track with the side-by-side. We're now going to do a very quick interlude now and play a 1966 cover from Buffalo Springfield with the classic For All It's Worth. And so we're going to play that now for our followers, just to give them that little bit more wine in the glass. All right, and then make them satisfied. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're listening, we're watching, and we're talking to the wonderful Rebecca Angel. We're now going to play a fabulous version. It's our own version from 1966 classic, and it's For All It's Worth. And we'll be back with you, Jazz Across the Pond, momentarily.
What it is ain't exactly clear. There's a man with a gun over there telling me I got to beware. I think it's time we stop. Children, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going down. day for the heat. 1,000 people in the street, singing songs and carrying signs, mostly say hooray for our side. It's time we stop. Hey, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going down. Paranoia strikes deep into your life, it will creep. It starts when you're always afraid. You step out of line, the man come and take you away. It's time we stop. Hey, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going down. Stop. Hey, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going down. Stop. Hey, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going down. Down. What's going Everybody look what's going down, 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 down. Everybody look what's going down.
Welcome back to Jazz Across the Pond, Jazz Interviews Reimagined with the Jazz Cat and Mr. G. We've been listening to For What It's Worth from Rebecca Angel's amazing debut project, Love Life Choices. Rebecca, that is a great cover of the Stephen Stills composition, originally performed, as we had said earlier, by Buffalo Springfield back in 1966, and you made it your own. As a matter of fact, you made it your own so much that the Independent Music Network selected For What It's Worth as their 2020 New Artist Breakout Single. So that is a feather
Yes,
in
that
your
was very
hat. So
exciting.
congratulations on that. I might
Thank
also
you.
add that Love Life Choices also just broke onto the charts in the last 7 days. It's the beginning of the charts, and we know you're going to climb up. But you started off, you broke onto two charts. You started off at the 91 spot with Radio Wave Smooth Jazz Top 100, and the 98th spot on the Smooth Jazz Global's Top 100. Those are two big charts. Obviously, 100 artists or songs, because there's some artists will have multiple songs, but for a project that's only been out for a short period of time, to have broken onto two charts already is pretty amazing. But if you would, tell us a little bit about the lineup of musicians that are on this project. How did that come about?
Absolutely. So Jason has many great connections with various musicians who have actually worked on some of my projects in the past as well, like Romero Labambo. He's a great Brazilian guitarist, and I actually worked with him way back on my dad's album. I did a song T for Two, so it was really cool to work with him again, with the Level Up on this album.
Right.
But we had some great musicians. I'm actually very excited. I get to perform with them in a few days at Drome in New York City. Yeah, so I get to play with Nir Felder, the guitar player, and we have Gene Lake on the drums. So it's going to be really exciting to actually play live with some of these people, and Ciro Baptista. So it's going to be very fun to put it all together for that energy on the stage after, you know, doing the album, because it's just a different energy that you get live. So I'm very excited for that. But yeah, Jason always puts together the top of the top when it comes to these recordings, and he really specialty, like who is going to sound good on what genre and what song.
Right.
So he definitely brought the A team on this record. And I also got to have background vocals with Maya Azucena, who's also a great vocalist, and I worked with her on the EP as well. So it was really cool to work with people that I've worked with in the past and have it come full circle here.
Brilliant stuff.
Very good.
Well, what I would say is, Rebecca, the tunes that you've very carefully threaded together, 10 fabulous tracks on this album. From 60s, we've already just established the Buffalo Springfield, wonderful cover on that, going all the way through a bit of Jobim, a bit of a Brazilian flavor to it, right through to the Sade. We've alluded to that, a great cover of the song Maureen. And of course, a great cover of one of my favorite songs is Just the Two of Us, which was originally Bill Withers and the late great Grover Washington, which Jason actually has made 2 albums of tribute to.
Yeah.
They are brilliant albums. They really are. We often play those tracks.
Yeah.
And of course, Bob Marley. So there's a real mixture. So tell our followers, how do you select? I mean, because the catalogue of music is just like on the wall here. So how did you get it all the way down and to select those 10 premium tracks?
You know, it was a very kind of seamless process, believe it or not, picking the songs, because Jason, he brought For What It's Worth to me. That was one of, I think, the first ones we recorded. And it was kind of this really unique time, I'd say, in history with the pandemic happening and protests in the street and, you know, a call for change, really. And so although a lot of these songs are such different genres, for me, it was a common theme of one, love, which is the title of the album, love songs, because I got married this year through the pandemic. So it was like just the two of us, and till now, some of these songs were really love songs of my relationship. And then life was kind of like, you make all these plans and then, you know, life happens and you have to go with it. So like the songs like Waters of March, it was about, you know, for me and Corcovado, these waves and these things happening and being beyond your control and really having to go roll with the punches. And Thoughts and Prayers and Maureen were really about loss and the death that we've seen through the pandemic and through violence in our country here. So although it's it seems random in some ways, or different genres, for me, it was a collective theme and story of what, you know, I've experienced and what I've witnessed kind of in this past year. So that's kind of how I pieced it together a little bit with that kind of theme in mind.
Well, you've done it incredibly well. Yeah. First of all, congratulations on getting married. I know Kevin and myself were waiting for the invitations, presumably because of COVID, we didn't see them. But anyway, congratulations again. And I know on your EP, there's a lovely section in the Lynn is in there, and you thank then your fiance, and you thank him for always being supporting you, being behind you, and total belief in yourself and that. So say hi to him from us. So excellent stuff on that one there. Brilliant album, brilliant song, and don't worry, I'm not upset that I didn't get invited to the wedding.
Well, Rebecca,
I will share pictures.
That's almost as good. That's almost as good, but we need an open bar to go along with that. Well, Rebecca,
cake.
Rebecca, I will tell you that in my opinion, I think there's several underlying themes bubbling within Love Life Choices, and I think you've effectively conveyed the isolation, fear, and emotional strife that's been caused by the pandemic. And when you add the divisiveness and the violence of our times today, you know, it's daunting. Yet
Mhm.
you had a great counterbalance to those fears with some
Mhm.
self-discovery and love that you've mentioned. So
Yeah.
I'm curious, what life lessons has the pandemic revealed to you, and how do you think those revelations will affect your music moving forward?
Thank you. That's a great question. I think, a theme that I always thought with jazz in general is improvisation, which
Mhm,
is something I've kind of applied a lot to my life, is that there's so much that you can control in your life, but there's a
right.
lot that you can't. And to be able to improvise and, like I said, roll with the punches, the more you are okay with change, like the easier things will be because things
Mhm,
are constantly changing. Things a lot of the times are outside your control. So kind of just realizing that there are some things that you can have control over and you do your best. I think that's something I've taken away from all of this, but also to be okay, realizing that sometimes things aren't okay and
mhm,
you have to work through those times
mhm.
and lean on the ones you love.
Absolutely. Well, one of the other things I wanted to ask you, Roger, can I ask you another question? May I? So may I? Rebecca, you once stated, and I'm quoting, and again, I've forgotten where I picked up this quote, so if it's not correct, you let me know. But you said,
No worries.
I started, and you've said some of this, but your quote was, I started in the musical theater realm, but eventually
Mhm,
found more liberty in the jazz field. Jazz always
mhm,
felt more natural to me. And of course, you're talking
mhm,
about being able to improvise and things like that. But when I
mhm.
read that with what else I've learned about you, I can't help but thinking that your mother, being an artist herself, who had
Yeah,
always encouraged you as a child, she had encouraged your creativity. She was always telling you, to think out of the box. She
yeah.
must have smiled when you expressed your desire to have the creative license one finds in jazz. I mean,
Yeah,
hindsight is always 2020. But as you
yeah,
look back on that decision
mm,
to go with jazz, what are your
yeah.
thoughts?
Yeah, I think, my family, first of all, they're so supportive of everything that I wanna do, which is really lucky because a lot of
Mhm,
families don't. Um, but yeah, I think just early on, I always thought outside the box and I had a hard time following things as written. Like playing piano lessons, I would always add my own flair to the endings, motifs in the beginning or end. And so my teacher was always like, play it as it's written. Like you're not, I would just naturally like to come up with my own kind of flair to it. So I think that my parents knew maybe the musical theater was too restrictive. Like I
mhm.
wanted to be able to spread my wings and experiment a little bit more. So I think they were just always happy that I was kind of following my own path and
Mhm.
forging my own path. And I think that's they're very proud of that. So
Well, they must be.
I'm
Absolutely.
lucky.
Now, we know that tomorrow you're into the studio. You've got 6 hours of rehearsal with Jason and all the lineup of musicians ready
Yeah.
for tour. Now, a year ago, 18 months ago, if we'd said that there would be nobody would be going on tour and people wouldn't go to concerts and that, I mean, we were like, no, 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 no. So it must be
I
fabulous
know.
to go back into the studio now. First of all, would you please
Yeah.
say hi to Jason from the two of us? And
I absolutely will.
so
Yeah.
going into the studio rehearsing must be
Mhm.
we spoke about it very briefly about how you recorded this album under the pandemic rules. Could you explain, because
Mhm.
our listeners may not understand, they must go, oh, they must just broke the rules, they went into the studio. It's like, no, 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 it doesn't. There was an artist we interviewed a couple of weeks ago and the drummer was in Puerto Rico, the keyboardist was in Canada, and it was all so how did this album, how did you get over this
Mhm.
wonderful album, get it done to be able to record it through the
Thank you.
pandemic?
Yeah, kind of a similar process to what you just explained. I mean, because everything was canceled, all these musicians were home. And so a lot of these musicians have home studios and they would record their parts and Jason would piece it together. So we kind of did piece by piece, which I don't think you can tell listening to it. It sounds so seamless, like we're all in the same room. But, all of these musicians are just masters at their craft. So, it sounded excellent, I thought. But it was kind of fun in that way that, you know, we could all be in isolation yet come together for this project and for these songs, and each give our own little piece of it too. During these really sad and scary, you know, unknown territory times. So it was great that we were able to, you know, get all these musicians involved during this era.
Well, it certainly worked, and you're absolutely right. The album seems seamless, and Jason's got his Midas touch. He's got the, you know, he's been able to put it all together, and it's almost as if you were in the same studio in New York together. So hats off to yourself on that one there. Now, you're just about to go on tour, so you obviously got some tour dates. Do you know, can you let our followers know your tour dates and where you're going and where you...
So we actually aren't doing a tour, but we're doing the debut release party in New York City. So that will be on August 10th at Drome in the East Village. So I'm very excited to play with all these musicians in person, but I'm actually also in law school. So starting in the fall, I'll be back in school. But I do look forward to more venues opening up, and hopefully next summer I can do more performing and traveling. So I'll definitely let you know if we do end up going on a little tour. But I think that for now we're going to focus on this performance and get a great video and post that and share it.
Awesome.
Absolutely. Well, certainly, please let Kevin know for the Smooth Jazz Train out of Richmond, Virginia. For me, Jazz Moods on a Wednesday night out of North Devon. Please let us know any tour dates and releases of anything that, and of course, we'd be more than happy to promote them and let everybody know what's happening out there. Where can people buy your album now, Rebecca?
Absolutely. So I'm on Bandcamp, Amazon. You can purchase the album. And from my website, you can also RebeccaAngel.net. You can see all of my music and sign up for my newsletter on there. And I share any performances. I have my music videos on there. And my YouTube channel is Rebecca Angel Music. So I'm on all social media, and Instagram is Rebecca Jo Angel. So you can find me everywhere, but my music streaming on all the main platforms.
Kevin, a last question from you, if you have one.
I do, and this one is just because I'm blown away by the fact that your uncle is Stephen Angel and that he played with Jimi Hendrix. So my question to you is, at what point, from a musician standpoint, did it sink in with you that OMG, Stephen was the drummer for Jimi Hendrix? At what point did that set in?
You know, I had heard it so early on that it was always kind of just like crazy to think about. But I think, you know, as I get older and I realize what it takes, you know, doing all this music stuff, that it's like just kind of mind blowing to think about he actually was in the same room and played with him. I don't know. It's just wild to think about.
Well, just don't tell me that he was the drummer for Jimmy at Woodstock, because then I really would be blown away. But that is just amazing. Oh yeah, my uncle was the drummer for some guy named Jimi Hendrix. I don't even know who it is. You know, that's
pretty wild.
incredible.
Pretty wild.
Yeah. Well, congratulations for taking that musical gene and pushing it to the forefront. And
Thank you.
we're so glad that you met Jason, and we're so glad you decided to pursue jazz as opposed to theater, because now you can share your wonderful voice with everybody worldwide, and they don't have to buy a ticket to go see a play. So there you go.
And also, thank you very much for taking time
Thank
to come and join us here on Jazz Across the Pond.
Absolutely.
Ladies and gentlemen,
thank you so much for having me, guys.
not at all. It's been our pleasure. It totally has. Ladies and gentlemen, we've been watching the wonderful and listening to the wonderful Rebecca Angel. We're going to finish tonight's interview and we're going to be playing a wonderful track called Till Now. Kevin, would you like to explain why we've chosen this track?
We've chosen that track because there's something that's very interesting about it. Number one, it was by Eric Satie, and the music, but the lyricist is somebody that I wasn't familiar with until recently, and the person that wrote the lyrics, at least for Till Now, the arrangement that you guys have done, is Rebecca Angel.
Mm.
Yes.
So there you go. So not only are you creating a wonderful cover of Till Now, but your lyrics are fantastic.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
Ladies and gentlemen, Jazz Across the Pond, the curtain is slowly coming down on tonight's interview. I know Kevin and myself could keep chatting forever because it's a passion of ours, jazz, and we love it. And it's wonderful to talk to someone like yourself. And we know that you're going to have a wonderful career. You're going to grow and grow, and everyone's going to be mentioning your name in years to come. And that it's an album
Thank you.
definitely add to your collection. It is a fabulous, and the way it interweaves with all the different flavors of it, it is fabulous. Ladies and gentlemen, Jazz Across the Pond, Jazz Interviews Reimagined, the wonderful Rebecca Angel. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a pleasure.
You're welcome. And Rebecca, we want to see you in concert, not in court one day, okay?
Sounds good.
All right, very
Thank
good.
you.
Say goodnight, Kevin.
Good night, Kevin.
And it's good night from him.